are in movie mode. It is hand, foot, and mouth week here on the podcast. Austin Burke, how you feeling, buddy?
Oh, well, it's not great. It's not been a good week. You know, last weekend was rough because I've got a little 1-year-old. You see your 1-year-old go through these things, and you're like, man, I feel terrible. I wish it was me. Well, now it's me. And I really wish it wasn't me. I wish it was just no one. It's nice seeing a smile on her face. I thought grown adults couldn't get the bumps, which is the big thing from hand, foot, mouth disease. Nope, that they can get it. It's rare, but they can get it. And so I got it all over my face, specifically my nose and my mouth, my hands, my legs, my feet. It's not been a fun couple of days, Ryan. It hurts to walk. How are you?
Yeah. I didn't think I could get COVID.
Oof.
Honestly, I've gone so long without ever getting it. I have to assume that that's what I had because I felt similarly to when right after I got the vaccine, and you know, you're kind of like down for the count for the next 24 hours or so. That's what I felt like, except for about, 72 hours. I'm coming off of it now, just congested, scratchy throat, and now I'm gonna podcast, but I have my water, so I'm feeling good. I am excited to talk with you tonight. We're here to examine the state of fandom, and I don't know how people feel about these state of episodes. We've talked Marvel, Star Wars a couple of times. Obviously, Star Wars will come up now, but we want to talk about the state of fandom. And I'm not trying to be any type of way about this. I just want to be transparent to the listener. We're going to naturally bring up things politically. So if that's not really what you want to listen to us talk about, you've been warned, and you are more than welcome to kind of opt out. And I totally get it, because when I hop on movie mode, I want to talk about the movies and TV shows that we're here to discuss, but it's just going to happen when we talk about the current fandom landscape. We're going to talk about dialogue, how the election year is possibly affecting us. So if you guys are down with that, please continue listening. If you just want to wait until next week's episode when we probably have more fun, then I totally get that as well. But I figured I'd just give everybody the heads up right off the bat. Is there anything that you want to say about that at all before? I mean, not that we're like starting right now. I just figured we'd let everybody know.
Yeah, I thought we'd start off showing some JD Vance couch memes. If you guys are up for that, then we can just kind of go full into Ryan shaking his head. Maybe not. We can just go full into it. No, I'm with you, Ryan. I think this is an important discussion to have. It's one that we could both be very long-winded on. I don't know how my throat's going to hold up, so I will throw it back to you more often than not. But yeah, there's a lot of things happening, especially with TV shows that are kind of in different worlds, but we can draw comparisons to each other. And that's what we're going to do today. And I think this is the perfect time to have that discussion, just because of the fact that we're in the midst of all of it. And we'll explain ourselves here in just a bit. And, again, it is something that is political by nature. But just so you all know, it's not one that we're going to, or at least we're going to try our best to refrain from leaning too far one side and just being friends with everybody who's on that side, vice versa. We're trying to approach it as middle ground as possible. And at the end of the day, we just want the fandom to feel more united, if that makes sense, and less divided. And that's kind of our goal, our mission with this discussion. Not everyone's going to love it, but that's okay. And I think this is a place where we would love for you all to share your thoughts as well. So if you're on the YouTube feed, be sure to get in that comment section. If you're not, and you're listening to audio, go over to YouTube or tweet at us. We love that. Right, Ryan?
Actually, yes, I would love to go all in on X, but that's another conversation for another day.
For sure.
This conversation's overdue. We've been wanting to do this for a while, but this Amandla Stenberg video has sort of, I think pushed us over the edge. It's also a good week because I'm just not going to the theater. this week. Just don't have an interest. Don't want to go see anything.
I feel you.
I've been watching a lot of Dexter, of all things.
Oh.
Hasn't Dexter like taken a new life this year? I feel like.
Yeah, with coming on the streaming and then the news of another revamp, reboot, whatever it is. I feel like we get one of those every year. So
yeah, we got it's with the prequel series
Yeah.
and then the revival series.
Yeah.
But just for some reason, it's on TikTok again, and everybody's it just feels like everybody's rewatching Dexter. I can't remember what those guys' names are. They're the guys that they're on TikTok and they always like have each other guess a top 5 list. I think they're like New York, Long Island guys.
Seen those.
Anyway, they always ask each other to name top 5. And the most rewatched series online was Dexter, and I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
Interesting.
Above Grey's Anatomy, above The Office, above Friends, Dexter was number 1.
Wow.
So,
yeah, what year is it, man? We've got Lost being in the conversation, the Zeitgeist, Dexter. So yeah, it's a crazy time to be a TV show fan, and some new shows that I feel like come and go nowadays, and we always find ourselves going back to the ones that we love from 10, 15 plus years ago. I think that's so funny.
Probably because they didn't deal with any of this woke, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
What a way to start.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Yeah, no, it's like psychology, right? It's one of those things where we're so depressed. We have to keep going back to the comfort food, the things that we can rely on, the things that we feel safe with. So that's what it is. But no, it's been cool. I just started season 4. So this is technically my first ever like legitimate Dexter rewatch. Like I've tried to rewatch and then fallen off or seen a couple episodes here and there, but this is my first legitimate rewatch of the series Dexter.
Nice.
Since it was on the air. So it's been fun. I am on like episode 4 of season 4, and season 4 is the one that everybody regards as the best. And I'm excited to see if I still believe that. I probably will. So I'm excited to relive it again for the season 4 finale. I don't know. Are you entirely up on Dexter? Did you watch the entire series?
I didn't watch it.
No, you mentioned it last week. Yeah, you mentioned it last week.
Yeah, I didn't watch it all the way through. I've seen most of the integral episodes. I recall many moments from season 4 being the best. I think it was the best season, or at least one of the best seasons. There were a couple of great seasons of that show, but after a while, I just didn't really, I never saw some of those filler episodes. I know how it ends. I know where things go. It's really good. I would love to go back and rewatch the entire thing from start to finish. But yeah, man, now you've got that. You got the prequel series. You got the new thing coming. And so just a lot of Dexter related things to catch up on.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll talk about the revival and the prequel series when it comes out. But anyway, it's been fun to sort of relive this. So anyway, let's talk about this Amandla Stenberg video that has since come out on her Instagram story. It was like 8 to 10 minutes long. It was her basically thanking, and I'm paraphrasing, thanking the fans of the show, talking about her appreciation for working on said show, The Acolyte, and then blaming the cancellation of the show on alt-right haters, essentially. What was your reaction to this? Sorry, I was trying to cough. What was your reaction to this video that Amandla made?
Well, yeah, just to start trying to approach it how she is approaching it. When she mentioned there was hate before this thing even got off the ground or before it even premiered, I think that's a fair statement to make. There was, I saw some hate. I saw some people, but I do think there's a massive gap between the amount of people that feel that way and what she is claiming that to be. So I want to say that, but And she's also upset. We have to think about it this way. She's obviously upset. She was excited to be in this world, regardless of what she knew about the lore, what she didn't know about the lore, what her intentions were, playing this character in the show. Regardless, she enjoyed being a part of Star Wars and this world. So she's obviously upset. And she's trying to find an outlet for that and a reason for why it got canceled. And I think the easy reason is to say, well, there were a bunch of haters. There were people before the show even came out, which, to be fair, there were some people that were doing that. That's a fair statement to make. But I think taking it those extra steps and kind of claiming that to be the overwhelming consensus as to why it was canceled because Disney let those haters win, when the answer is a lot more simple than that. And in reality, if the show would have been up to par, if the show would have had the quality that I think a lot of people were looking for, because sometimes if something's good enough, Ryan, we are willing to admit, and I say we just in general, I am willing to admit that I'm wrong if something surprises me. Absolutely. And while I didn't go into the Acolyte with that mentality that she's talking about, I would have, if I felt that way, if it would have been up to par of quality, I would have turned around and said, you know what? This thing deserves to stay on. This deserves to not be canceled. But when the Acolyte wasn't up to par, that's something that I think she's entirely disregarding. And not like she's going to come out and say that, right? But to claim that, and I'm not saying she's fully claiming it, but for people to claim that if you don't like the show, that means you were part of the crew that was going against the show before it came out. That means you're part of the crew who was spamming 1 star on IMDb. That means you're part of the crew who was saying sexist and racist things. That isn't the case. It just straight up is not the case. And I would even argue that the overwhelming majority of people did not like the show because it wasn't a good show. And so that's what I was thinking the entire time while she was talking. Maybe we're just spinning it in a direction that's pissing people off even more. And it doesn't matter now. It's over. But all you're doing is pissing people off even more. So that's what I was thinking while I was watching. What about you, Ryan?
I actually think it's fair to question, does Amandla actually think that it's people who love this show versus alt-right, racist, bigoted people? Because she doesn't take the second to clarify in her statement that isn't the case. So, look, it's not like I feel personally attacked by this, because ultimately I just want to stop talking about this show. I really do. I really want to stop talking about it. It is not worth all of the conversations that we're having.
Yet here we are, buddy. We're here.
It's not worth. Well, we're using it as a launching pad for fandom in general, but it's not worth the petition. It's not worth the Twitter discourse. It is not worth getting upset at each other about this. Okay, but when she says, when she talks about it being a kind of targeted attack, I would say that we received by the alt-right, is how she words it. It's just wildly irresponsible to basically gaslight people into saying that your show was canceled because Disney caved to racists and bigots.
Ooh,
because
bold.
If she wants to do that, but also like praises Disney for letting them make the show, that's pretty ass backwards to me. Because if you want us to believe that the show was canceled because of alt-right bigotry and hate and haters, then the company you worked for, they're cowards.
Yeah.
So, first of all, the messaging of her, it doesn't make any sense. It's, I love this experience, blah, 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 but it was targeted by hatred, and we can't, this narrative doesn't add up, especially when it takes a Google search to find out what the viewership is. Like, we know why it's canceled.
Yeah.
We know why it's canceled. People did not watch the show. They did not like the show. It did not make money.
And, even though I didn't expect this, even if the show would have been good, I didn't expect this to make money. Do you remember, and we briefly hit on this off air last week, Ryan, do you remember the amount of money they spent per episode? What did we say that was? Was it $15 million per episode? Is that what we said?
180 divided by 8, right? It was something like that.
So it was just something along those lines. And we were also, and many of people have been talking about this. If you look at, because people on Twitter are saying, well, if season 1 of, just an example, Breaking Bad was not as good, not up to par, then if it was in the same shoes, it would have been canceled after one season. We never would have gotten one of the greatest shows of all time. Yeah, but look at the cost of the entire first season of Breaking Bad, and then compare that to the cost of one episode of The Acolyte.
Yeah.
You cannot justify that. This is a business. This is a business. You cannot justify that. The only thing that would keep you from justifying keeping that on air when it's losing that much money, okay, which I know a lot of these streaming shows do, but if you're getting high critical praise and high audience praise, and people love the characters, and the characters become somewhat iconic, well, that's when Disney sits back and says, well, I know the show is losing money, but we can use these characters at our theme parks because they're really popular. Or we can get some t-shirt sales. There are other ways to make money off of shows that may not be recouping what they should recoup if they are accepted by audiences and critics. And I'll give it to The Acolyte. Right. Critics, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, enjoyed The Acolyte. Granted, they were reviewing it after, 4 episodes? And I'll be honest with you, I would say some of those critics dropped off, but maybe they didn't go back and change their score after they saw the finale. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. And so that's where you have to look at, okay, critically, they enjoyed it, but when the audience score is that bad, and I understand there are people that are review bombing and giving things bad scores before the episode drops. Yeah, it's ridiculous. IMDb shouldn't allow that. Rotten Tomatoes shouldn't allow that. It should not be allowed. They've tried to fix things over the years. Okay, it's just a hard thing to tackle. All of those things apply, absolutely. But I'm talking to friends. You're talking to coworkers. We're talking to people in our lives telling me that aren't online, that do not take time out of their day to go spam IMDb, that aren't even hardcore Star Wars fans, that are telling me this show's just not very good. I had some guy tell me, who I know is, maybe he's seen 2 shows this year. He said, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I tried it. I had to tap out. It just wasn't very good. And then you see, you've got the vocal minority, obviously, but then you see people that are just very chill about the fact that they just didn't really like this season of television because narratively it didn't work. The characters weren't interesting. You couldn't find somebody to root for by the end. The decision-making was ridiculous, which was the case in most of the episodes. I tend to agree with those statements. And so when you can't justify all of those things and your show is losing that much money, that's the reason why it didn't come back. And I'm somebody who enjoyed some aspects of The Acolyte. I did. I thought there were some moments, but you can't justify it when everything is working against you. And it's a business, Ryan. They are a company that's trying to make money. They could care less if they're not making money.
I don't understand. Does anybody actually I know that people do think this, because I see people on Twitter that are adamant that this show was unfairly canceled, that it actually was done so because of hate, because of all, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's insanely misguided. But the idea that anybody could actually be convinced that they would hear from a studio, we're gonna have to shut down production just because of all the racists. Like, what? Like, what?
And they're saying
that's
saying
what people will. That's the narrative people will form. That's the only move is racism and bigotry if you are flat out refusing to address any other aspect of the show that didn't work. So the extreme lack of accountability, the way that people just dance around the fact that all these YouTubers that are accused of being hate and the is and the phobes, everybody who criticizes those guys just acts like they never say a word about story, writing. They just clip out the jokes of them, hating on Leslie Headland and doing what they're doing. And that's what forms their narrative. For it to work, they have to completely disregard any constructive criticism that has come up about the show. Amandla Stenberg, for her to convince people that it's because Disney said no, you said yes to the racists, like, you're just not addressing. But here's the thing. Here's the problem. When do we ever in real time hear directors, showrunners, actors, studios just straight up addressing criticism online? We don't.
No.
And we probably don't need that. It's not like we need like a Kathleen Kennedy first look interview with the Nerdrotic. Like that stuff doesn't exist. And it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Because it really should just be left at make the material, here's the feedback, and if you want to make more money, listen to the feedback. That should really be it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But there are people who like this stuff. There are people, and I hate to say it, that do benefit from having good relationships with Lucasfilm, with this material. I'm not going to say that that's what goes into forming opinions, because I'm not going to act like it blows my mind that somebody likes The Acolyte. Twilight is one of the biggest film series of all time, and it is not lost on me that for whatever reason people will. And she even Amandla Stenberg even kind of pointed that out, that The Acolyte speaks to the shipping fandom, which I don't want anything to do with that. Like the Raylo shit that was going on, I want nothing to do with that. I think it's trash. But I know that that's for a certain audience, and for people that miss Tumblr. So this idea that what really just happens, in my opinion, is that actors should stop doing what Amandla did. Because really what she's doing is, listen to me say this, and then we fight amongst ourselves. Because we fall for it. We get mad, we talk shit about her, or we get mad at the fans for doing we're just pointing fingers, and it's just and then there are the people that are actors should have a platform, and Amandla's using her platform to speak out against this and that, and it's I'm saying it, I don't think it's there's no cause for it, right?
Yeah.
There's no cause to just say the show ended because of, because it's just not the truth. And really it's just bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. But we fall for it every time because for whatever reason, we get so pissed off at other people's thoughts. Right? So this Joe Locke, if y'all don't know, the actor who's in Agatha All Along, I don't think we know exactly. I think we know who he's rumored to play, but I don't think we know exactly who he's playing in Agatha. He's featured in the trailer. He's the young kid in the series. He said something that annoyed the shit out of me as well. So I he basically was asked about backlash that he got from playing this character, which, by the way, I didn't know this. I read it in Huffington Post. He got backlash from the LGBTQ plus community as well,
What?
because of his openly queer character. Yeah, well, you know how it is.
What?
You know, they eat their own, they eat themselves.
I
But
don't. Why though? Oh, that's strange.
his quote in responding to backlash from LGBTQ plus community, it really annoyed me because I was like, you can't ask for authentic casting and then be upset if you have a camp character. So I think what some people are accusing him of is playing like just like a stereotypical, but we also haven't even seen that yet. We haven't seen the
You
show.
see the trailer.
so,
Yeah.
so I
What
don't
is this?
I don't know.
Trailer?
I just thought that was interesting because, you know, there's a side of fandom that their argument is only based on I speak for an entire community because I'm their protector and I am their watchful protector, and I will speak as if I am speaking for this entire community.
Jesus.
But now we have communities tacking their own, and it's just like you get lost in this shit. But anyway, so in speaking to backlash from his Marvel character, he says Marvel fans are very open with their opinions, he added, but they're not in a Marvel show. So I'm doing the one thing that they really wish they could be doing. Sorry. And I've also seen it written that he blew a raspberry after saying that. So here's my stance on this. Of course, the people that agree, they've got, you know, activism at heart for you know, we're talking about superhero television shows and their promotion, and we're talking about having activism involved in this. People are, of course, going to be like, yes, go Joe Locke, you know, doing the whole thing. But I just don't understand this move of actors going after speaking to fans like this.
Yeah, it's the whole it's the whole nana nana boo boo, you wish you could be me type of thing. And regardless of what the subject is, of what people are upset about, not upset about, that is not what we wish. That is not why we watch these movies or these TV shows, because we wish we could be there and be doing what you're doing. No, I like what I'm doing. I like watching the show. Okay, you're there to be in the show. I'm here to watch the show. That is not what we wish. All right. So I think the argument of you just want to be in my shoes type of thing is very condescending. And I understand saying that towards a group of people that are being rude, being mean about whatever, upset, this and that. But when you say something like that, it just comes off like you're meaning it to everybody because we're all not in your shoes. And so we're not even your target audience. And I hear that and I'm like, well, that's condescending. That's just not the way to handle it. And so when an actor does that, regardless of the subject matter, I'm just like, there are so many other ways you could have handled that and not acted like a child, which, you know, young, that's okay. But still, acted like a child.
We need to stop speaking so generally when we're arguing certain points, or at least like take the time to just admit that not everybody thinks the same way, because that's what a lot of people do, like activism and things like that are being, you know, carried on in fandom and politics and things like that. Everyone just acts like they speak for entire communities. Mm-hmm. That's the only way their shit works, and that's how they feel empowered. How could I be wrong? I'm saying I'm here to defend this entire community, and I speak for this entire community. You have to be crazy if you disagree with me. That's what makes all of this shit like impossible to argue.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, you're being critical of somebody from a particular community? You have to be a racist. And it's like, no, I don't. I can just be concerned because people like you are arguing for it, acting like you're speaking for people when it's just not the case.
But in this case, right, he says Marvel fans. That's a very generalized statement. It's Marvel fans. just wish they blank, blank, and blank. You could have said the people that you're talking about, really, because we know that he's not really talking about us. But when you say Marvel fans, it's just like, hey, everybody, don't you wish you could be me and in my shoes? And I'm like, that's not the way to handle it. And so, and again, it's hard to like, I don't want to fully judge the statement because maybe it was a long day and it's just kind of, I'm over this whole interview type of thing. Everybody's circumstances are different. It's like dealing with somebody who's having a horrible day, who's working at Walmart, and they're rude to you. It's like, I get it, pal. You've been here for 7 hours. But at the same time, at least use this as a learning experience, not to sit there and say, Nana, Nana, Boo Boo, all Marvel fans, you wish you could be me right now.
Well, to be fair, I don't think this was a press junket.
Okay.
I think this was just an interview with Variety. So I don't know about that specifically, but he's a young dude. He's 20 years old. Amandla Stenberg is 25. I just think it's just immature to do this. And, I'm not going to act like being an actor in Hollywood is easy because there's just no way that it is.
No, it's not.
But I used to appreciate actors because you'd hear about like how much effort, goes into auditioning, the struggle, barely having anything, stringing things together to get parts and, all those cool stories that you used to hear about. I used to really respect that and really admire certain actors for doing that. But now it's like actors want us to feel sorry for them, but now they're adding in all this other shit that makes it harder and worse for them, right? Like they post things on social media that will only get them backlash. They say things they shouldn't. And it's like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel more sorry for you when you're causing more issues for yourself. That, it was already hard being an actor, right? Why are you... social media should get you closer to your fans.
Yes.
But they don't know how to go about it because they got all this bullshit in their head, whether it's like just the echo chambers they're in online or the pressures of thinking and feeling certain ways in Hollywood, coming off. But it's like, this is just wildly counterproductive. Does this ruin her return to Star Wars entirely? Like, it's a legitimate question. Will we ever see the character of Osha and May just like pop up in Star Wars? I don't think there's any way that we will.
No, and look at what Disney's doing, just beyond what she's saying and all of these things. Look at what Disney's doing. They're wiping the merchandise. They're wiping the existence of this show, and that kind of tells you how big of a colossal failure it was from a viewing standpoint, from a reception standpoint, and just, Disney was obviously looking at the feedback. Yeah, there's a lot of negativity and things that are over the top and ridiculous. Absolutely. I'll fully acknowledge that kind of stuff is ridiculous. So yeah, Disney was probably parsing through that as well, but they're also looking at the genuine criticism and feedback. And I don't know if wiping it off the map is the move. I think it's pretty funny, but I don't know if that's the move. But they're doing it. They're doing it. And so it's like, man, they obviously are taking some of that criticism to heart. And so if they're doing that, I don't think there's any way we see her back. But you said something important too, and that's something. And look, you're in your early 30s. I'm almost 30. It's not like we've been around the block a time or two. Okay, we're pushing 50. We've got 4 kids and been married for 30 years. No, but 20 years old is really young. It's really young. It's 5 years before your brain fully develops. And so I was probably saying stupid things at 20. I was probably thinking stupid things at 20. And it is a time in your life where you have a lot of things on the brain and a lot of things that you want other people to believe, that you believe. And so I don't want to fully come down on the kid because there's probably just a lot going on in his mind, and seeing probably shades of hate and some of the backlash in the past, and he's probably noticed some things with other movies, and it's probably like, yeah, that's going to fuel my fire with this answer. Now, again, to apply that so generally is insane. But to be fair, 20 is very young to be thrown into the fire like this, and so I can forgive from someone that young, and even Amandla Stenberg. Look, 25. Your brain's fully developed by that point, this and that. But she's also pretty young, right? And I feel like the younger generation is more a part of seeing a lot of this hate and seeing a lot of the negativity of social media. And we've seen it at our age, but I feel even worse for like my brother who is 24 years old, and he's seeing it much closer to home, it feels like. And so they do have their reasons. I just think the wording, the verbiage, the way they go about it, and being so broad about this type of thing, and instead of uniting the fandom, say, hey, let's go fight for this show, we're dividing the fandom even more so, to where they just want to attack each other. And the show goes by the wayside no matter what, because both sides are just trying to kill each other. And that's exactly what she did.
I'll go a step further and say that not only will I not like lay the hammer down on Joe Locke, I actually think he should think that way. I think he should believe what he said. I don't think he should have said it.
No.
But I tweeted this. In response to his quote, I said, I actually respect this attitude as it allows you to celebrate your accomplishment and it protects you mentally from what could be an overwhelming amount of criticism. However, saying things like this publicly continues to be stupid as shit. The problem is that I know that you said it. That's what I don't understand. That's like, you can be young, you can be stupid. I will forgive you for that. I was young and stupid. There are handlers. This person has a team of people around him that should be coaching him and advising him from saying this stuff. Yeah. And I'd be more inclined to think that if they coached him to say the thing, it's because they're trying to push out a certain narrative. Again, like Amandla. I'm not going to act like Amandla. I'm not going to say Amandla was told to say what she said, but if she just wants to protect Leslie Headland and, you know, act like this is all about her getting racist comments, then that's all that she's going to talk about. Mm-hmm. So I want to fall in love with actors again, which is so stupid because I think you should. No, I think you should keep, you know, your admiration for celebrity at bay, but at the same time, but it's just like, don't you get freaking pumped when you can tell an actor loves being in, like, even if Amandla Stenberg talks about how much she loved Star Wars, it's always on the back end of like, she still didn't have a place in Star Wars up until this. And it's like, I never saw myself, this whole like seeing yourself thing. I don't know how I feel about that. I would actually love to know where you come from because you're a father of a child, but this whole like seeing yourself on screen, I have never once, it's never even crossed my mind. Mm-hmm. And if I ever said that publicly, I know that if I got backlash, it would be because Hollywood's predominantly white and you're a white man, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, I don't think you understand. I don't watch Ocean's 11 because I see myself in any of those characters. It doesn't have anything to do with it. So it's weird. And it's weird when we do that. It's almost like we just do that with big franchises. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like, I just talked about watching Dexter. You think I watched Dexter because I see myself in Dexter or Masuka or Batista? It's like, it doesn't cross my mind. But I do know at the same time how powerful it is. Those pictures of seeing like little girls going to Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, those are great. Oh, yeah. Oh, like, you know, and Halle Bailey experiencing that kind of stuff, with young black girls seeing that stuff is awesome. Like that,
Yes.
I'm not going to argue with that. But at the same time, I think it's, I don't know as an adult if that's like a criticism for why something works or not. If you see yourself on screen, I just don't know what that is.
Yeah, I've always seen that statement as, and it's not always intended to be this way, but I've always seen it as, this is how kids would watch something, right? That's, when I was a kid, I would watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'd believe I was a crime-fighting, karate-loving turtle. Like it was that kind of thing. Like as a kid, you believe a lot of things as a kid. And first of all, that's scary because you're going to believe whatever adults tell you in general. That's why, like the old saying, well, that used to be the case, not anymore. It's like once you're out of the house and you're not learning from mommy and daddy anymore, then you see the real world. Well, now kids have access to the internet. So they're learning and seeing things, and they're believing things, and it's a lot of, and again, their brains are mush. They're mush. I love my daughter. Her brain is mush, okay? She is going to, well, not now. She doesn't understand anything now, except for Miss Rachel. She loves Miss Rachel. But when she's 4 and 5 years old, she's going to believe whatever the adult tells her. That's just how it is. And so their mentality when they're watching a movie, I would say more likely than an adult, because like you said, with an adult, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think there needs to be a phrasing thing there, and I'll hit on that. But they want to see themselves represented on screen like a Ray or a young black girl watching Ariel and the Little Mermaid. And, as much as the backlash against that, like that was such a hot button topic, that is really a cool thing to see. Young black girls coming out of that movie theater and saying, wow, I'm seeing myself, Little Mermaid, she's black. Like that's incredible. And so I wish, honestly, I wish more people would think of it like that, as opposed to like, oh, they changed the race of Ariel. Like, I get it, right? But one, is the race of Ariel such a sacred thing? Like whatever Disney's intentions were, like whether they're pandering or not, whatever you want to call it, we don't know what their intentions are. But is it an integral aspect of her character? I don't think it is. And so
it's not.
I think it's a beautiful thing when you see something like that. Go ahead.
No, I think when people bring up the pandering, it's because we've seen a pattern. It's because there's a string of them doing this where it's just obvious. Like there were people online that took issue with like Michael B. Jordan being cast as Human Torch, for example, right?
Okay. Yep.
I was podcasting for Film Beef when that happened. Never thought twice about it. We were at the height of Michael B. Jordan's powers.
Phenomenal actor.
At the time, we thought that was going to be the hot new reboot with Josh Trank. like the idea that Michael B. Jordan could be Human Torch, it just made sense.
It did.
Like there are castings that I don't even think twice about. And so if they race swap, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, that was 2014, 2015 when we heard about that.
Yes.
We didn't have the DEI stuff that's being activated. We don't have the pattern of gender swapping, race swapping. I mean, there's all kinds of things where it's just like the Batman Caped Crusader. Like Batman doesn't have a lot of female villains. So let's make Penguin a female. If you say something like that, you admit you're stupid. If you are the creator of a Batman animated series, it was Bruce Timm that said that, right?
Bruce Timm
has been behind the wheel of several Batman projects. And on your most recent one, if you think to yourself or say out loud, Batman doesn't have a lot of female villains, and your decision was to make one of the most iconic ones a female, you're stupid. you are in a position that so few people are in where you can make a new one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not only that, you could have another Harley Quinn on your hands, because Harley Quinn was popularized or came about in the animated series. This is less creative, but the last time a female villain was created for Batman, to my knowledge, was Jada Pinkett Smith's Fish Mooney in the first season of Gotham.
Yes.
You could have just brought Fish Mooney and continued that legacy.
Yeah.
So all of those things, like he says there are people that are going to come to his defense and be like, you just can't handle race swapping. You're uncomfortable with this. Like, no, he admitted he was stupid is what he admitted. Is that he's not going to take the time and effort to create a female villain, and he's just going to, like, that's the kind of stuff that people, I think, rightfully call out.
Yes.
So I mean, I'm a massive Halle Bailey fan, so I don't even like that I brought her up, because she can do no wrong, in my opinion. Awesome. Her new single is out this weekend. But big fan of Halle Bailey. But But it's also one of those things too, where, like, if I was a parent, and and I had a mixed race daughter or whatever, and we were thrilled to go see Little Mermaid, that would be so awesome, and she would probably fill my heart, and that would be super special to me. I could still have the opinions that I have that Disney did this to pander to my daughter, but I'm not going to infect her with that, because she's a kid, right? So it's like, so yeah, a kid doing that kind of stuff is always special for the kid, because they don't need to care about any of this stuff. But it's just weird to me that there are adults that think that way, and it's just weird.
Even just, there was that poll that came out the other day, and I know they came out and said, just to hop into it, the 10-year-olds weren't really asked that question specifically, but just the way it was initially phrased, I think it was 10 to 24-year-olds were asked about sex in movies, and so many of them said that they didn't need it, and so many of them said it wasn't necessary. Let's take a step back for just a second. Let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Why are we asking? And it came out and they said they weren't asking the 10-year-olds. Okay. How about the 13-year-olds? Because that's who they asked. Why are we asking the 13-year-olds that question? Why are we asking a 15-year-old that question? Why are we asking a 17-year-old that question? Why are we doing it? And you can make the argument, yeah, I mean, look, the kids, they're exposed to all of this stuff on the internet. The kids, they know what sex is. They're doing the sex. They're doing all the things. Okay. I don't care. I do not care. If you use that argument, you're an idiot, okay? You're an idiot. And stay the hell away from my kid, okay?
Yeah.
Stay the hell away from my kid. Why are we asking kids these questions? Why are we exposing to kids our problems with all of these things? Disney pandering to, okay, they do and they can and they will, but like you said, I'm not going to sit and complain about that to my 10-year-old. I'm not going to sit and complain about that to my 15-year-old, because that's not something they need to be dealing with. That's not something they need to be talking about. They don't need to be asked about sex in movies. They may come across it. They will watch a movie with sex in it, but we don't need to know if they need to see it or not, or if they want to see it or not, because they're a kid and their opinions matter, but not on those things, okay? So let's get one thing straight, because that was the argument I saw too. It's like, hey, kids' opinions matter. Yes. No. On what are they going to eat? What are school lunches going to serve? Like that kind of thing. That's what their opinion matters on. Like what the hell are they going to college for? What's your degree going to be in, young man? I don't want to know if you want to see sex in movies or not. Why are you asking a 17-year-old that question? I don't care if they're 17. And to me, even 18 and 19 is pushing it, because that's also that age. But to me, it's just like we are filling their heads with things that, and frankly, the internet does it too. I understand that. But we don't need to help in that. We don't need to expose them to these issues They will learn these issues on their own, and they will come to care about them on their own, but they don't need to be a part of that conversation, that discussion right now. And that's something that the more I see things like that on the internet, I'm just like, guys, we're not focused on the right thing. We're not, because they are not our enemy, and we do not need them on our team for this. They are living their own lives. They are figuring out who they're supposed to be, and they are developing their own brains. So let's let them do it. Okay?
It's funny, as you were talking, I wanted to bring up this show anyway to talk about it being like super diverse and super unique, but I could kind of see where it causes some of these problems that you're speaking to. But I was just going to talk about the fact that like there are shows like Sex Education on Netflix, and we like don't bat an eye about their diversity.
Yep.
In fact, I thought that show was super successful in its first 3 seasons. The last one I didn't really care for that much, but I liked the show.
Same.
And I look forward to it every year. I'm going to be called a racist and a bigot if I come out against the Acolyte, even though I watch all kinds of material and enjoy them for all different various reasons. But that was a successful show. Maybe it's a lot if teenagers are watching it on Netflix, kind of going to your point. But I just think it's funny, this idea that, it's almost like people remember like the Charlottesville people protesting, but they all had like stormtrooper helmets. Like it's only Star Wars that the alt-right can't handle. Like all of this other diverse content exists.
And a lot of it's really good. A lot of it's really good. Like Sex Education. Now it's a great diverse LGBTQ representation across the board. And it was awesome, and we would never fight that.
And it's super modern. It's like I don't agree with everything going on in that show, but it doesn't matter.
You don't have to,
because I think it's a smart show.
Yeah, well written.
So, and it's got good, fun characters. So, look, like it's just this idea of, I think we don't give the world enough credit.
I agree.
For being diverse and inclusive. I mean, I'm not obviously people are upset, but the more than likely the people that you're calling racist online watch plenty of things like that would just collapse your argument. But nobody's ever going to know that, because if I'm accused of being racist and I'm like, yeah, but my favorite movie is SWAT from 2001, and it's got an incredible diverse cast ahead of its time. SWAT with Colin Farrell. But it's like the person's just they're already mad at you. They're gonna just keep arguing and saying you're a racist and a bigot, and they've clipped out a racist joke that you made, and it's just like this stuff doesn't work online. But because people don't trust that the other person is any good, they have to hate them. They have to for it to work. I was debating a guy online, what's the point in fighting against, these people when they just like make racist jokes or make gross thumbnails? Like, why isn't it enough to just counteract the material you don't like with the material that you want to make? And he had an activist standpoint behind it. I'm going to do it for this community, underserved, I'm going to do it for, I'm quoting him, but he said, I'm going to do it for the black child who feels like he's not represented by Hollywood and doesn't feel like Hollywood wants him in. And I'm thinking to myself, outside of us talking about the Acolyte, outside of us talking about Star Wars, if we hop on this podcast any other week, what are we talking about? The fallout and collapse of Hollywood in and of itself. The idea that there are all of these problematic people that, that are online saying all these problematic actors, celebrities saying all these problematic things, producers being accused, Roberto Orsi, he just got accused of sexual why are we putting so much stock and faith that Hollywood should guide us into the future with progressive agenda and activism. This idea that we need Hollywood to do this for us, it's outdated and wildly misguided.
Mm-hmm.
The same people that are talking about like Disney failing all of these underserved communities, you know, the agenda and activism that the Acolyte, that they put on the Acolyte. I mean, good Lord, that show can't even handle a story, let alone activism. I mean, Jesus Christ. All the shit that people want to put in these shows. It's like, why should you have any faith that Hollywood is the industry to shepherd this in the first place? I just saw a TikTok today. A guy said that he was done going to the movie theaters because he was in a theater today with 10 people. 6 of them were on their phones talking the entire time. Okay.
Wow.
So you and I are podcasting about that. On any other week, we're talking about people have no attention spans anymore. They're watching things on TikTok. Why? How are we not already in an age where we take in all types of different content from diverse groups of people?
Yep.
Because I don't know about you, but that is exactly the world that I live in.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly the world that I'm comfortable in.
Yep.
There are more people creating YouTube content. There are no roadblocks when it comes to creating a YouTube channel, a TikTok page, an Instagram, and creating your own content. I have access to the entire world. Indian movie creators, black comics, all kinds of gym bros, whoever I want, I can follow anybody. And the fact that we don't, did we just forget that we're always talking about how young people are watching more content just made by regular content creators?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this idea that we need Hollywood to be diverse for us to thrive as a community, it's not true. And we need to stop acting like it. I Show Speed, Kai Cenat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go on and on. All of these, I mean, and people have their own opinions of them, but Aiden Ross, there are people of color that do all kinds of things online, and a lot of them are incredible. And so this idea that we need a black boy to see himself in Hollywood because a guy named Nerd Roddick with 1 million, 2 million YouTube subscribers makes a joke about how a corporation shouldn't have DEI policies because it's disingenuous. It's just, it doesn't add up. When we have young black men, I'm using this gentleman's argument that I debated with, they are the most popular streamers on the internet, and they have 20 times the subscriber count that Nerd Roddick has. I think they're going to be fine, and we're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that because somebody's going to be like, Ryan said they're going to be fine if they're never cast in Hollywood. Ryan said never to cast young black men. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you actually look at where we're at in the world, I watch all kinds of people, and I'm the better for it. I'm not going to pretend that Hollywood is what's going to take us into the future.
Yeah. Well, I'll take that a step further. I agree with what you're saying. I think putting that much stock in Hollywood in general, I feel like is ridiculous. And I also think it's so funny, not that I want to get political, but I think it's so funny that we take so much stock in what certain people in Hollywood are telling us to believe politically as well. because they're talking about equality and fighting for certain people's rights and this and that, when what you just said is still true. Hollywood's not good at it. They're not good at it. They've never been good at it. There is a reason why.
The stuff with the Acolyte is proof. Yeah. Like, look, there are fans that are saying that Disney and Lucasfilm have failed the actors.
Yeah.
Like, still no word from Lucasfilm since firing all these minorities, because that's the whole point, I guess. They just, so it's like, there's a narrative, it's like, yes, that's kind of what we're saying. We should all point our fingers because they suck and they are terrible at what they do. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your point.
You're right.
Sorry.
They're bad. They're bad at it. But we put so much stock into what they say, they being the entity, the studios, the Hollywood, into what they say about what we should believe and how we should go about our lives, when they are probably the worst example, because they don't know how to handle it and they don't know how to make decisions. And they are full of corrupt and evil individuals. I mean, how many months do we go without finding out that a producer or a writer or an actor is being outed for sexual misconduct or something just pure evil? It's constantly. I mean, look at the Nickelodeon thing. For years with children. And we still have people who put stock into what those studios will tell you about certain topics when they are living proof that every single footprint that they have left is either corrupt or evil or just full of absolute unbelievable actions that I would never, ever in a million years... I never could have imagined that as a 10-year-old boy growing up watching and loving Nickelodeon, that all of these things were happening behind the scenes. All of these things were happening behind the scenes. And what these kids were having to go through. And then I grow up and I'm putting stock in those same studios on what they're telling me to believe and how they're telling us to act in these things. It's insane. And again, this is not Ryan and I saying that we are completely against diversity or we are completely against these things. No, Ryan just gave the best example you could possibly give. YouTube and, God forbid, TikTok and all of these platforms are full of diverse, incredible, followed by millions and millions of people, kids, children, content creators that are of all races, of all ages, of all sexualities, and they have that platform to spread similar agendas to what people are putting stock into Hollywood for, but doing it, and again, sometimes things will come out about some of these creators that aren't great, but for the most part, we're with them every step of the way, and so we know we can put stock into what they say. And we know we can put stock into what they believe. And whether we believe or not, we at least get an idea as to why they are saying what they are saying. And I think that's incredible. And, as someone who grew up in Eastern Kentucky and admittedly, didn't have the most diverse group of friends, I've been able to meet so many people online in this YouTube, this movie critic community, obviously, but in general, the YouTube community, just different niches and groups of people, sports creators and all of these things, diverse men and women across the board that I can sit here and call friends. And that has opened up my world, opened up my ideals, changed my mindset. It has just given me everything I need to say that, yeah, man, YouTube and TikTok and these platforms and content creators and all of these things that we don't think about when we're thinking about how to go about diversity and how to go about the same agendas that we're seeing being spread in Hollywood that are just being handled in the exact opposite way that they should. And it's so obvious that these studios don't care about our feelings, don't care about our thoughts, for the most part. And we're just talking the entity, not individual people. But they're so much more focused on making money. And to make money, sometimes you have to pander to people that have the right idea, but they're doing it because they know that it's going to cause conflict and controversy, and thus it becomes obvious. Yet we are unwilling to call them out for that, and we are unwilling to look inward and say, you know what? Maybe YouTube is where we need to look to kind of guide us with how diversity should be handled and how the topic of sexuality. I mean, there's so many content creators I can go to right now who have open platforms and are constantly talking about these things that I would put so much more stock into than people in Hollywood. And I think that's something special that we don't talk about enough, man. We're always looking to that Hollywood sign, that light in the sky to guide us, when in reality, we've got it all right here, man. And I think that's incredible. I really do. So I completely agree with what you said in that regard.
We also have to remember that diversity means diversity of thought.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you know, I've received more hate in the last few weeks just from covering like Nerdrotic or just having certain opinions about controversial topics, like Mark Hamill saying what he said about MAGA. Like all those videos, obviously people want to label me, say, you know, they have vague impressions of me because of that type of video. But more than likely, when I make a video about that, the backlash is going to come from because I'm either I'm giving someone airtime that comes off hateful, as an ist, as a foe, blah, 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 blah. But if they're challenging my lack of, you know, inclusion or diversity or whatever, it's like, I don't think you understand that I go completely unbothered by and will listen to Theo Von's interview with Bernie Sanders in the same day that I'll listen to his interview with Trump.
That was awesome.
And I will be unbothered by it.
That was awesome.
Because I can handle that. And sometimes I think it's important to know what everybody is saying. So if somebody wanted to look at what I'm watching on YouTube, they might be appalled. How could you listen to this? Because I'm curious as to what they had to say about something. Like the same way that I'll listen to this person because I'm curious to know what they said about this. It's like the people that accuse me of whatever they accuse me of, they just don't know that they have no idea that I am actually all for this stuff.
Yeah.
For the right reasons. What an incredible country that we have here. The idea that all different types of communities can express themselves freely with their art, it's just, there are places in the world where that can't exist. And they're and rights are being taken away from a lot of European countries right now as well. And there's all kinds of stuff, weird free speech stuff going on. It should be. I honestly think we need to get back. Every community needs to get back to appreciating the free speech that we have.
Yep.
And then it comes down to just being able to process and handle the fact that everybody has it, because everybody should have it.
Yeah.
But this idea, I remember growing up and not being able to watch, not allowed to watch South Park. But I would catch an episode here or there. I might be at a friend's house, and I remember it would be like an Entertainment Tonight or an Extra, some type of interview with Matt and Trey in defense of basically their their sense of humor and their take on how they can represent special needs. They can make jokes about, different types of characters from different communities. And the idea is that we treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
We'll make fun of the white kid the same way we'll make fun of the black kid, the same way we make fun of the special needs kid, but everybody is still treated the same. And I remember learning that as a child, and thinking, oh, that's actually true and compelling. And I've often thought back to that because it's weird that we have all of these arguments about these shows when like South Park still exists. But where's South Park outrage? Yeah. Where's It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia outrage?
Family Guy.
Like, it's like there are shows that are still doing this type of like anti-woke, like crass humor and things, but nobody goes after them. And it's why? Did they get grandfathered in? Like, there's always revisionist history. We'll take out shows. Like, I saw somebody post a clip from G4 today of like some insensitive joke about Japan. It's just like, wow, G4 isn't. It's just like, we're just picking and choosing what we're doing here. So this idea that I'm supposed to be convinced by the gentleman I was debating on stream one time that like we need more diversity and this and that. I'm just thinking to myself, man, I just watched the largest live podcast in the world last night, Kill Tony. And like I described with South Park, everybody is welcome. And the only thing that matters is if you're funny or not. And when I scrubbed through that episode that I watched, I had already seen it, but I was curious. I just wanted to, what did I actually watch? I scrubbed through it. And if for those of you who don't know, Kill Tony Hinchcliffe pulls names out of a bucket and gives them 1 minute of stand-up comedy, 1 minute to do stand-up comedy. And it's completely random. Anybody can sign up, right? I scrubbed through the episode that I watched the week that I was debating this guy. A guy from Estonia, a black trans woman, a Hispanic man, a white man, and it was just somebody from a different group the entire show. And I just remember thinking, the world wants to convince me or convince people that we aren't already taking in diverse content. Mm-hmm. And it's almost just like, I don't even need to be on this stream anymore because I do it every day. And I think most people do it every day.
Yeah.
So I if anything, as we've sort of stated, we should just figure out how to come over and break bread and just laugh at Hollywood sucks at this stuff. And they cannot be trusted. And the only thing left is like, just focus on the Star Wars. I saw one of the articles, one of the first press releases about the Acolyte being made was Leslie Headland, Russian Doll, comes in to focus on female-centric television show or something like that. Mm. And it's just like, no. Do exactly what you're doing, but maybe talk more about the High Republic. High Republic focused show. We're going to do this, this, and this, and this. You don't have to say a word about who you're casting. Cast your wife in the role, whatever it is. We like Squid Game. We love that guy. We love it's just like, it's all fine and good, but focus on Star Wars. Right? And that's the kind of stuff that is getting lost in these debates. And so what happens is, because one side gets pissed off, then the other side makes fun of them. So then they come off even more racist and more bigoted because they're saying dumb shit back. And it's like, but people fall for this every day. Like the amount of times, one thing that's helped me over the years, the amount of dumb shit I see on Twitter, the people that refuse to acknowledge why the Acolyte has been canceled and they want it to be about, racism. So, the people that tweet that kind of stuff, it shows up in my For You It's so annoying to me. But at the end of the day, it's just like, if I reply, that's sort of me giving in and falling for it a little bit, right? Like, it's enough for me to just be like, yeah, that's stupid, and then move on, because nothing I do changes their mind.
Yeah.
It's not like I can do anything or need to do anything. That person can think what they want. Is it ridiculous? Yeah. But I don't need to do anything about it. So this idea that we need to do something about what this person said online, you can have your opinions.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can have your opinions. You can reply to somebody, but how much of yourself do you want to give to this corporate bullshit? Like, that's what it is.
Do you know how many times I've seen things on Twitter that I have said, this person that I don't know how they're on my For You page. Maybe I've liked something in the past. What they're saying right now is so stupid. And it's just so stupid. And I just want, with everything in me, I want to say, why do you believe the things that are being told to you?
That's right.
They're jingling the keys in front of your face and you're taking the bait. That's exactly what's happening. But you know what I do, Ryan? I don't reply.
What?
I don't say a word. I move on and I say, what's for dinner? You know, it's just like, there's so many more important things in life than that. And so I wish the people that do start the threads and do reply and do quote tweet people. God, I hate when people do that. I hate it. Because it's like, you can't just reply to the person.
That.
No.
I do that.
No. But you can't just reply to the person and say this, and this. But I think what you do is you don't do it targeting that person necessarily. It's more so just kind of the idea. I've been quote tweeted before, way back in the day. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said something along the lines of, man, there just aren't that many funny comedies anymore. Okay. That's all I said. And somebody took that as, well, because comedy is, I guess, less willing to offend now, Austin thinks that comedy is woke now. And so Austin is a disgusting human being. So that's what they got out of that tweet that I said, man, I just, I haven't seen a good comedy in a while. They formed an irrational opinion about me. And instead of replying to me, instead of messaging me, which they could have because we followed each other, they quote tweeted me and took that very generic tweet where I said, man, comedies just aren't that funny anymore. And they're like, well, is it because comedies just aren't raunchy and disgusting and aren't sexist and racist like they used to be? Because that's where your mind's at. And so they were basically accusing me of someone who would call something woke. That's what they were accusing me of.
Right.
All I said was, I haven't seen a good comedy in a while, but they quote tweeted me to all their followers. And I'm like, I know why you're doing this, because all of your followers have that same mindset as you. And so they're all going to believe what you're saying. None of them know who I am. Nobody's going to believe what I say. And so I just messaged that person and I said, hey, instead of irresponsibly quote tweeting me on this, why didn't you just ask me if that's what I actually meant by that? Because it's not what I actually meant by that. And I see that so often, man. And that's when I say quote tweeting, I see that so often, people misconstruing the way that someone is trying to say something, take it the other way, and they blow the person up to their tens of thousands of followers when it's very clear the person wasn't even trying to say that. And they try to make him look disgusting and sexist. And it's like, dude, just handle it like a normal person. Have a conversation. It's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. People just, when we call each other out on Twitter, we bring with us the baggage of so many other things. And again, for them to work, right? They like, let's say that day, that's the day that Seinfeld complained that you can't make comedies anymore, and they've already commented on that. They see you doing the same thing. They think you're making the same point, even though you might not have. But then it's like, and then the stuff that gets me, the stuff that always makes me laugh is the people that are always like the "you're probably" statements. Like, oh, you're probably the guy that's can't wait to vote Republican this year. just like out of nowhere. Like, you're probably the guy, he's got a white hood in his closet. And it's just like, what the "you're probably" statements.
What do you say?
It's just like, okay. The Chris Williamson, he said something. I think he was talking to Whitney Cummings on his podcast, but he said something about, he basically just tore down this idea of like, we just need to stop caring about what people say on the internet because it's all based on vague impressions.
Yes.
Whoever says something to me in a comment section, and it's not everybody's like this. There are people who can comment, have legitimate criticism. Somebody who's coming from a place of like, hey, I've heard Ryan speak every minute on this topic, I'm going to respond. Like, there are absolutely those people. But the people that will never be your fan, and then they come in and just like have their baggage and bullshit with their arguments, it's like, those are the kind of people that only have vague impressions of you. Therefore, what they're saying is automatically invalid.
Yeah.
It cannot stand. But again, that kind of goes back to what everybody's doing. Jay and I used to talk about this back in the day when we covered Schmoes Know and Collider. So when we talked about their content, we would compare it very often to what a lot of other just content creators were doing. Not like movie content creators necessarily, but just like other like vloggers or other podcasts, things like that. And we'd be like, why can't Collider do this? Yeah. And I remember their fans just like never being, I won't say they would never be able to follow us, but sometimes it was hard for them to follow us. And Jay and I would just kind of look at each other and be like, do Collider fans only take in Collider content? Like sometimes people react to things like they don't care or watch anything else. So the people that are like Renew the Acolyte on X, because they have like certain, some of those people, I'm just like, oh, is this your entire life?
Yeah.
Like, are you the one that actually doesn't take in diversity of thought?
Uh-huh.
Because again, I can handle listening to all kinds of, different types of content from varying opinions and things, but it's like, are you the one that can't? Are you the person who has issues with diversity? Telling the one who isn't that he's racist?
Yeah.
Like, this is your entire life, and you're only talking to people online that are like this. Yeah. Otherwise you get mad at them. So when I made my video about the cancellation of the show, I'm like, guys, this is a TV show cancellation because it didn't get viewership. I've seen that happen a million times in the last decade. It's just another TV show cancellation. That's what's fucked up about all this. It took us an hour and 25 minutes to just nail down, like, this is just a show getting canceled because people didn't watch it. That happens all the time, every year. It's why pilot season is a thing. Mm-hmm. We always need more shows because of the ones that get canceled that no one watch. NBC is airing pilots this year to replace the canceled shows that people didn't watch. All right. So it makes me just question, like, forget about all the fluff, the the phobes, the online discourse. It's like, oh, you just like don't know how TV works. I mean, like, I don't know what else. It's like, yeah, you have your like shipping of Kymir and Osha or May, whoever it was that ended up with him at the end of the show. But like you have all this going on, but it's like this is just another day.
Yeah.
For the television industry.
Dude,
for streaming.
For Netflix.
For streaming.
This happens every week on Netflix. There's a show that gets canceled every week. And it's always a show that people care about and they're really passionate about. But then there's no petition. I mean, there's no big cry online of, wow, this was canceled because of racists. Like, it's just like it's so simple. It just didn't get enough views. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
there's nothing else to say.
Let me give you an example. A show that I love with everything in me dearly on Netflix that was canceled because people didn't watch it. It's Mindhunter. Yeah. Mindhunter is not getting another season because not enough people watched it to justify the money spent on it. That's why it's canceled. I hate it. It kills me. It hurts my soul. But you know what? I get it. Because that's how TV works. And if the money doesn't justify the lack of viewership, then it's not going to work. Now, I could sit here and say, just don't put that much money into it. Just get David Fincher to make a cheaper show because I love it and it's outrageously amazing. But you know what? It happens all the time. And this degree of this shockwave that has happened from the cancellation of The Acolyte, I believe has resonated with people longer than The Acolyte itself. I genuinely believe that. More people have talked during a longer period of time about the cancellation of The Acolyte than about what actually happened in The Acolyte. I genuinely believe that. And that's is
not a good sign.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah. It makes me laugh, the argument of, I think we talked about this last week, but I love the argument where people were like, you haters like ruin this for us, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, the haters watched the show. Like, if anything, the show would have performed worse without the haters.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, was this show hate watched? Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely it was. Without the hate watching, your show would have done worse.
Hey,
it would have.
Let me give you an example. You know the Velma show on Max? It got a season 2, man. It got a season 2. You know why it got a season 2? Because people hate watched season 1. And did you see people complaining about it? Nope. You may have
Actually,
seen.
I did.
Mindy Kaling may have said one or two things and a couple people here and there. But you know what?
I see. Yeah.
But you know what they were doing? You know what they were doing? They're writing season 2. And they're like, all right, baby, season 2. Here we go. We're getting another season. Because people watched the show. And so hate watching, as much as we don't want to admit it, it helps the product. That's what it does, because they're still counted as views at the end of the day.
There's just all these other things that I point to that I don't even know what my points are, but I just think about like what's the most popular show that you could stream? Is it The Office? I mean,
yeah, probably.
It's like that's
probably.
It's like even that, if that's the most popular show, we're gonna be okay. There's all kinds of funny shit. It brings us all together.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different types of people, types of jokes, types of humor in that show, and it brings everybody together.
It does.
And so I just think that like when we try to make everything about this racist stuff, it's just not true. People act like there's just an army of racists that hate Star Wars online. And it's just not true. Are there people who make racist jokes? Sure.
Yeah.
Are there people who lash out and probably say annoying, offensive things because they're fighting back? I mean, yeah, absolutely that happens. I'm not going to act like I even said in my video, I was like, I don't doubt that Amandla Stenberg has gotten a couple of comments.
Oh yeah,
that are nasty.
And it's
I don't
disgusting.
doubt it. Have I seen them? No, but I don't doubt it because it's the internet. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think Amandla Stenberg probably gets the same type of maybe magnified, but I the people. If we went to her Instagram right now, I'd be curious to see. Well, then again, she might delete them, so maybe that's not a good argument to make.
But the thing is,
I think I see plenty of just like criticism. Like, do they need to do it?
Yes. No.
But at the same time, just feeding this narrative that it's only racist people out there that hate the show, it's just not true.
Well, and it's also kind of saying the people that dislike the show and aren't being racist are condoning the racism. And that's absolutely not true. It's absolutely ridiculous to even insinuate that. I think is an insane thought. Because why would you believe that? Why are, you and I, we're clearly not fans of the show. We're not sitting here condoning the people that actually do that. Like, yeah, they're fine. Go ahead and do it, big guy. No, not at all. Just because we don't like the show doesn't mean that we're in agreement about why we don't like the show. We don't like the show because of the way that the show handled itself, the way that the writing, the way that the characters did not come together, things that actually matter when it comes to criticism.
And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but I was just going to say, I think that's the most important thing, right? We are focused on what needs to be focused on. There are people that do that, for sure, but we're not all in the same camp, okay? We don't all have to be friends. The people that have genuine criticism, we're not friends with the people that are being racist and disgusting. We have nothing to do with them. So don't lump us together, okay? Don't lump us together.
There's also the fact that, like, I already think Disney Plus content sucks. Like, Disney Plus still hasn't figured out how to make television.
Sure.
Star Wars is a tanking franchise.
Sure. Yep.
It's like there's all these things that can go into just simply not liking the Acolyte. Like, it's just not that people just want it so badly to be the worst thing in the world. It's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think the common ground is just, again, trying to figure out a way to come to an understanding that we all want the same thing. But when your argument is to tell somebody that, they're a terrible racist or whatever, it's just like, that is not going to do anything. And I know that, I will admit, I'm perfectly aware that seems to be the mindset that I'm coming from. It's because from my perspective, what I've encountered this year, because I'm so disengaged with Star Wars, I used to speak out against people who were critical of Star Wars. And I used to say that, they're just tired of the franchise changing. Mm-hmm. They can't get over the material that they saw in their childhood. I used to just straight up think, I don't know how you can think The Last Jedi is a bad movie. Like, it's well written, it's well shot, it's got amazing character moments. Mm-hmm. It didn't rely, in my opinion, on nostalgia the way that Force Awakens did. And so I thought it was, I can do all of that stuff, but at the end of the day, I think the people who are critical of Star Wars have sort of come out on top. But I think it's made evident by shows like this. It's made evident by these downward trajectories that we see with these finales, with these seasons.
Yeah. When
we actually analytically discuss this show, we can point all this stuff out. That it's just simply not working. And, So that's why I look at it the way that I look at it now. If I need to make sure that people understand that I know that there are they're nasty people on both sides, like for sure, like there's bad eggs on both sides. There's good eggs on, like, it's not all bad. But this idea that we have to make it bad and we have to lie to ourselves to vilify the other, that's what I want. I have no interest in doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. I can disagree with you. I don't need to vilify you. I just challenge people to not don't accept every single narrative that's handed over to you by people who are obviously trying to form a narrative.
Yeah.
Who's going to form a narrative about Star Wars? Who's going to try to control a narrative about Star Wars? Disney and Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're doing that with Star Wars Outlaws. They I shouldn't say they, but the Disney Star Wars Outlaws subreddit is banning criticism of the game.
What?
Yeah, that came out today.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They're banning criticism. It's a similar trend I'm seeing with movie studios that are inviting less critics to premieres and less critics to early screenings of movies and more influencers, because we know that influencers are going to be most likely the target demographic to really enjoy something, really pump and motivate their followers to go see it and say really good things about it, whereas critics may not be doing that. And so I'm seeing a trend right now.
They get to pick and choose.
Yes.
That's what sucks.
Yes.
They get to pick and choose, like, oh, here are the people that eat up everything we do.
Everything.
Let's invite them to Lucasfilm to play the game. Yeah, Star Wars Outlaws subreddit reportedly bans users for criticizing Ubisoft's game.
Oh my goodness gracious.
This came out earlier today. So
freedom of speech, am I right?
But you can. So what I want to hear more of, where are the people that love the Acolyte, love those characters? Where are the people that love that show and are disgusted with Disney and Lucasfilm the way that we are? That's what I want to know. Where is the influencer? Where are the fans of Star Wars, current Star Wars, that won't vilify people who are critical and who will see the shit that we see, but also happen to like the Acolyte?
Yeah.
Where is that unicorn? Because that's the kind of stuff. I don't want it to be about, what race they are, what gender they are. I want to know, I just want to hear from the person that liked the Acolyte, but knows why the show got canceled, that knows that they're full of shit with some of this stuff that they're pandering to. They know that Amandla Stenberg is trying. I want to hear from that person. They have to exist
somewhere,
but they don't get the love that they should. That's what we need. And I would, if you know, in the comment section, let me know a content creator that does that. I just want to shout them out and not only talk about the divisive sides. So please let me know. But it's always, I also want to ask the people that are so quick to label ists and phobes, their arguments collapse. Let me ask you instead of state, don't their arguments collapse the second that a person of color, criticizes the Acolyte as well?
Yeah.
Because what if the Acolyte is primarily non-white men? Let's be fair. Was there a white guy? Yeah, the Jedi Master who plays Lannister.
Yeah.
He's in the show. Okay, fair enough. That's good. But if you're a racist for not liking the Acolyte, you're more than likely being told you're a racist because you're white and can't handle. Am I off base here?
Oh, it's almost every argument I've heard.
So it's primarily white people can't criticize the Acolyte. Am I on to something?
That's what I feel like I'm seeing on Twitter.
Right. Right. So again, going back to taking in diversity of thought, you want to know who's done a great job boosting her YouTube channel with all of this Acolyte coverage? Snarky J Cosplay, a Latina woman. That's redundant, but a Latina woman just rips the Acolyte to shreds, rips Leslie Headland, rips Disney, rips Star Wars, and just completely demolishes everything the Acolyte stood for.
Really?
And I just love when that kind of stuff happens, because it means that so many arguments collapse on themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like, that's the kind of thing. But it's like, again, am I the one with diversity of thought? Am I the one taking in diverse content? Because I see all different types of people that dislike the Acolyte. I watch all kinds of people that hate the Acolyte.
Oh.
But then I hear from people who love the Acolyte and say, you're a race. So you're only paying attention to the white people that do it, which means you take in less diverse content than I do. I mean, that's what I take from this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that's, again, going back to that podcast that I was on, I was debating them, and I'm just like, you're making all these arguments like you're speaking for all these other communities that you're not even a part of. And I know that there are people from those communities who don't agree with you. So what are we doing?
Yeah. 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 Can we get back to actually talking about what was the character's name? What was it? OSHA?
Sidewinder.
Sidewinder, man. It's Sidewinder. Yeah, man. Why don't we talk about the characters and the story and the lore? I mean, that's what we want, is good lore and good, but that's not what anyone's talking about. No one's talking about that. No one.
Yeah.
When that finale premiered, there was like a 3-hour window where people were talking about some of the lightsaber fights and the resolution and the twist. And I haven't seen one person bring up anything to do with the story or the characters or the fights or the cinematography or anything since the show got canceled. Yet all I see are people just destroying the people who didn't like the show and defending it to their death, to their very death. Like, this show means everything to me. And those people are out there. Okay. I'm not saying, again, I'm trying not to be as doing what I'm being hypocritical here. Okay. There are people that enjoyed the show, but the majority of what I see is just the defense and the argument and the anger directed at the people who are quote unquote racist and bigoted and evil and got this show canceled. And I can't believe you did that. And why did you do that? Like, the representation across the board was just so good. Okay. But what about the show? What about the show made it good? What about the show?
How is the representation good if it's a show that gets canceled and it's a complete stain on a franchise? Regardless.
Yeah.
It's just like, how can I not argue that no, that was actually terrible representation?
Yeah.
Because you didn't take good enough. First of all, you didn't distinguish the two twin sisters at all. Not only do they look exactly the same, but Amandla Stenberg performed both characters the exact same.
Yeah.
So I would argue you should have done better because it was an opportunity you missed out on.
Absolutely.
And that could have, and both of those characters could have been very special.
Yes.
So it'll continue to thrive on ship Twitter and things like that. But it's just like, how is that good representation when you actually had a great opportunity to give us two very interesting characters, sisters that come or that not come from different backgrounds, but are headed in different directions from each other. And you couldn't even do that. And it's the lead character of the show. And it'll never be represented in Star Wars. Maybe in a book. Maybe no show pop up in a book, but it's like, have you ever seen them represented in the parks? Any of those characters? Do they do that?
I don't think so. No, they definitely won't now because they're wiping the show. I mean, they're wiping it away from all the merchandise.
Yeah. So the people that are like, it's good representation. It's like, no, you like the characters. I can argue easily that it's bad representation.
Yeah, because if they were great characters, then there would actually be representation at the parks and on T-shirts, and we'd be talking spin-off comics. You know, a great example of female character in Star Wars that people weren't in on at first in Ahsoka and became, I think, a core character of modern Star Wars and became a badass. She got her own TV show. All right. And a lot of people argue that's one of the best Star Wars characters ever created. She was a beautiful example of a female Star Wars character that my daughter, going back to that, can look at and say, there's a girl who kicks all kinds of ass, leads her own show, is on T-shirts, is maybe the best part of the Clone Wars, the final few seasons. Boom, boom, boom. You're checking off all those boxes. There's representation. There's a beautifully written character. You've got all of those things. And I didn't love the Ahsoka show, but just we got there because of that. You know what I mean? And these two characters from the Acolyte, that's, I think, the biggest detriment. The biggest issue that I have with all of this is it was such an example of a missed opportunity, of missed potential. Because when they announced the Acolyte, and then they announced who the characters were, and then they announced when this would be taking place and what time period, I'm like, this has potential to be one of the best things Star Wars has ever done. Because they're removing themselves from the time period we had been stuck in for so long, and from the characters that we were, granted, we got a little bit of that towards the end, but the characters that we were with for years and years and years, we can kind of start anew, do something different, and we can explore a time period that we've never explored. What does the show do? The show never explores that, other than a few lines here and there of here's when this takes place, folks, and a wardrobe that is ever so slightly different, and a location for the Jedi that looks the exact same as it has looked in other Star Wars properties that take place 100 years later. It's like they did nothing to distinguish it from a stylistic standpoint. And that's where we got to start, man. You got to put some effort there. The quality is obvious. Just make it work. But because it was such poor quality, and because it's coming out at the same time as House of the Dragon and The Boys and all these other shows that are just like, you watch them, it's like, that's a movie on a small screen, or that is an incredible character study, or, oh my God, The Boys is subverting every expectation that I've ever had for a superhero project. And then you watch The Acolyte and it's like, it feels just like Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, and they all feel the same. And there's nothing to distinguish it other than maybe a more diverse cast. And that's about it. And so that is the prime example of, you need to do better. That's easy for me. That's a very easy thing to say.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because we're now sort of experiencing, and I know a lot less about this, but the Rings of Power is sort of going through a similar fallout, but we're just getting started with that. Season 2 is just now sort of being seen by people, and I guess everybody can watch it now. I think it was today or yesterday, but I know it's definitely, making the rounds on YouTube. So it'll be interesting to see, because that show falls under a lot of the same criticisms. I think it's going to get canceled this season. I think it's inevitable. This will be the last season of Rings of Power, and it'll be Acolyte all over again. So it'll be pretty fascinating to go through that. Is there anything that we left on the table that seems reckless that we should iron out, or do you think we feel good about this?
I'm sure there will be, inevitably. Just to what you said about Rings of Power, I'm with you, man. I think just like the Acolyte, you expect a Star Wars show to be more significant in the world of pop culture. The Acolyte just wasn't that. And I'm kind of feeling the same thing with Rings of Power. It's like people were talking about season 1 when it was on, divisive for sure, but they were talking about it. But after it was over, I never really saw anything else about it. And I'm not really seeing the cultural impact that a Lord of the Rings project should be having. That's not good. That's not good. And so that spells bad things for the future. We'll see how season 2 is received. But if it isn't received any better across the board, then we may be looking at another cancellation, which, shocking, a TV show gets canceled.
I know.
It's crazy. Can't believe it.
Indeed. Well, I feel like we've covered that. Maybe ran it into the ground.
Big show. This was a big show, Ryan. I didn't expect it to be this big.
My throat's getting scratchy now.
Same.
I'm about. Is it? Do you want to tell me a little bit about Sing Sing real quick? Tell me why I should be excited about that. And then, I'm just the most clumsy transition of all time. But before we head out.
Yeah. I saw Sing Sing, which is supposedly a big Oscar player at the end of the year. We'll see where A24 actually puts the chips, because they've picked up a film by the name of Queer that is supposed to be a massive player. You have the Sebastian Stan movie, which is, they're saying he could get a nomination. So I don't know
Trump
where
movie.
No, it's a different one. I think it's called A Different Man. So he's in 2 coming up this fall. But yeah, there's a big push right now for Sing Sing. People saying it's a Best Picture nominee. I would say I think it will be at this point in time, without seeing a lot of the Oscar movies. People are saying Coleman Domingo should get a nomination. I not only think he should get a nomination, I think at this point he's my pick to win Best Actor.
Wow.
It's the best performance I've seen this year in a movie. It's phenomenal. This is a story that is very simple. It's one of those movies that takes actors and non-actors alike and tells a very simple story with a very simple premise. We are in a prison, and there's a group of people that is being led by Paul Raci from Sound of Metal, who is incredible. And a lot of those people are being played by individuals who have been in prison. Maybe some of them are in prison. And what they do is they are training to put on a play, to tell a story or a series of stories, whether it be a Shakespeare project, a comedy, whatever it may be. And this is used as an escape from, obviously, the situation they're in, but also from the things that a lot of them are going through, because a lot of them are going through, we're trying to get ourselves out of here. We're going through the process of getting some evidence laid out there. Maybe I'm innocent, maybe I'm not. And everyone's going through their own things. Some people are involved or have been involved in drug issues. Some people have kids back home. And so you get to explore a lot of these characters that, again, are played by non-actors. You don't know that. You can't tell that while the movie's going. But you get to experience all of this through them. And the moments as simple as, they're standing up and reading lines and preparing how they're going to read these lines in front of a crowd is awesome to see, because some of these characters are too afraid to actually speak up in front of an audience. And so you're seeing them find their voice, but you're also seeing them trying to let go of their baggage as they're escaping the reality that they're in and putting on a play, going into fantasy land. And a lot of them can't do it. And Coleman Domingo's character at the beginning of the movie, he's kind of the guy that's pushing everybody like, all right, guys, here's what we need to do. And we're going to get some people involved that maybe don't want to be involved. And he goes through a very emotional arc as the movie goes. And finds solace in some other people, and people find solace in him. And by the time you get to the end of the movie, man, you have been on an emotional roller coaster. I mean, a journey that is so simple at its core, but one that will just make you look at this entire equation here and just say, I can't believe what some men and women have to go through. Maybe they should be there. Maybe they shouldn't be there. But how they're living their life and how they're trying to come out of the darkness. And that's the focus of the movie. It's not like your average prison movie. Oh, there's some bad clicks going on. No, the focus is finding solace in this situation. Dude, it is beautiful. It is a beautiful movie and it seems so cheesy, but I was just riveted, man. It's not the most entertaining movie I've watched all year. I don't know how it's going to hold up on a rewatch, but just a one-time watch at the Kentucky Theater, where I wish they would work on their speakers, but it's still such a cool atmosphere. And yeah, dude, I was riveted, man. Domingo, he has one moment that was just like, holy cow, this guy can act. He's so good.
Yeah, the Euphoria cast is thriving post Euphoria. It makes me question if we're ever going to get season 3. But yeah. I mean, that sounds like the kind of movie that that should have been discussed at the end of the podcast we just had. Like, that does sound like something like uplifting and interesting, and I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah,
I have been waiting for a movie that shows me on screen. So I cannot wait to see myself on the screen when we watch. I don't watch film to understand more about the world and understand more about what other people go through.
Yeah,
I only watch things that
see you, man.
depict. Yeah, so this is the kind of movie that. Yeah, I'm excited. Sounds good. Sounds like a top 10 contender.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, anything else in the mode of movie?
No, I just want these bumps to disappear. They're just all over me. It's like bugs under my skin.
Maybe by next week.
We'll see.
Do we know?
Hurts to.
Do we know what we're doing next week?
No, what is next week? What? Oh, Beetlejuice. Ayo.
All right. Can we talk about this real quick and then we'll hop off here?
Okay.
I have no interest in seeing this movie. Like, to the point where, like, as it sits right now, I don't live in a world where I will see it.
Ooh.
So,
okay.
So here's why. First of all, I have no memory or no nostalgia for the original Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Second of all, Tim Burton has not made a good film in 30 years. And I'm tired of people
struggled.
Okay.
He's struggled.
So Justin Theroux is in it. That might be the only thing
that's
that can
the
give
calling
me
card.
To see Justin Theroux. Austin has a week to convince me to see Beetlejuice.
Let's do it.
I
got this.
We'll meet back here, guys, next week.
Mm-hmm.
We love you. We appreciate you. That's it.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. See ya.